9 people are killed in a mass shooting in Germany. The attack took place at 2 Middle Eastern bars. The victims were all immigrants. The suspect is believed to be a far-right extremist, identified only as Tobias R. Chancellor Angela Merkel denounced what she called the racism and hatred behind it.
Racism is a poison, hatred is a poison, and this poison exists in our society and is responsible for far too many crimes.
We'll have the latest from the crime scene. Also on Global, China reports a sharp drop in the number of new infections of the coronavirus in Hubei province. But an outbreak in one South Korean city is described as an unprecedented crisis. And all clear after being diagnosed with stage 3 bowel cancer. We'll hear from British actress and Mamma Mia star Dame Julie Walters about the shock of her disease and the journey to recovery. This is Global. Racism and hatred are poisoning German society. That's the admission from the German Chancellor Angela Merkel after a far-right gunman shot dead 9 people in the town of Hanau. The killer targeted 2 Middle Eastern bars popular with Kurdish migrants. After the shooting spree, he apparently turned the gun on his mother and then himself. Our diplomatic correspondent Paul Adams has the latest.
Hey Jungs, hier war eben dicke Schießerei vor meiner Tür in Midnight Bar.
Horror in the centre of Hanau late last night. There's just been a whole lot of shooting, this onlooker says. Some guy went in with a weapon and started picking people off.
I heard a loud shooting. Bang, bang, bang. I heard this. Everybody, the person run, scream, and much panic.
Minutes later, a mile away, and the police arrive at the scene of a second attack on another shisha bar. Once again, the victims mostly thought to be of Turkish origin.
I got
a call from a colleague that there had been a shooting attack here at the kiosk, and so I came straight here. Then I heard my father was affected and my little brother. They run the kiosk. But then I saw them both. They were horrified, and they were crying and everything.
Amid rumours of more than one gunman, the police launched a 7-hour manhunt. But witnesses led officers to a house near the second shooting. There they found a 43-year-old man and his 72-year-old mother. Both were dead. German media reports say the suspect was a German citizen named only as Tobias R, and that ammunition and gun magazines were found in his car. The authorities now examining a video he's thought to have posted in recent days in which he discusses conspiracy theories.
Doch weist derzeit vieles darauf hin,
a lot of evidence points towards that the perpetrator acted out of far-right and racist motives that stemmed from a hatred towards people with different heritage, different beliefs, or a different look to him. Racism is a poison, hatred is a poison, and this poison exists in our society and is responsible for far too many crimes.
Und es ist schuld an schon viel zu vielen Verbrechen.
Concerns about far-right violence in Germany are on the rise. This appears to be the third such attack since last summer. Paul Adams, BBC News.
Well, our correspondent Damien McGuinness is in Hanau.
We've had more information from federal prosecutors really confirming, as we heard in that report, that this was indeed a xenophobic, racially motivated far-right attack. We've got more information about the individual involved, that he was a 43-year-old German citizen who appeared to be motivated by some extremely dubious racist ideology. He seems to have compiled a 43-page manifesto containing all sorts of conspiracy theories and white supremacist ideas. Where I'm standing right now, the mood though is more somber because there are plenty of local people here gathered, very sad, thinking back to the attack that only happened last night. We're here right now at the site of the second shooting. The attacker started his killing spree at 10 o'clock in the evening at a bar just about 2 kilometres away from here. He then drove to this spot, entered this bar where you can see the red sign behind me, and killed some more people. After that, he went just a few streets away to his home, and that's where, as we heard in that report, it's thought he killed himself and his 72-year-old mother. So we're piecing together more information about him, but also more information about the victims. All 9 of the people he shot in these 2 locations appear to be of foreign origin, which is extremely distressing because it does mean that even though Germany has become a much more multicultural, multi-ethnic society, that it does mean that minorities here feel under threat. And now German officials and the authorities are under a lot of pressure, really, to firstly make sure this does not happen again, but also to make sure that minorities here feel safe in their home here in Germany.
The head of the World Health Organization has said he's encouraged by the fact that the number of cases of COVID-19 outside China remains low, but warned the world could not afford to become complacent. The outbreak has now been described by authorities in the South Korean city of Daegu as an unprecedented crisis. The number of cases there has surged to 100. Elsewhere, 2 elderly Japanese citizens who were taken ill on the quarantined Diamond Princess cruise ship have now died. Laura Bicker reports from the port of Yokohama.
After 2 weeks stuck in a cabin, this walk to freedom must feel glorious.
Exit stage right.
These Australian passengers documented their final moments aboard the Diamond Princess.
Bye. Thank you for everything.
Just a few final health checks to go through before they make their way to the airport and home. Many others were told that they too could leave, and they couldn't contain their glee. But as one British passenger explained, not everyone has received good news.
Some people have got to do another 14 days on the ship because their partner has been taken to hospital. But it is just a major inconvenience to us. And when I think of the other people and the people on the inside cabins who have got no daylight coming in at all, it's horrific, really.
Worse was to come. Word quickly spread that 2 elderly passengers had died. A sobering reminder of why this quarantine matters.
For the hundreds of passengers left on this ship, including 70 Brits who've all tested negative for coronavirus, this is the last night that they have to spend in their cabins. But their ordeal isn't over. Once they get home, they face another 14 days of quarantine.
In China, at the epicentre of the outbreak, doctors told state media they would work to stamp out the virus. And there was more positive publicity as health officials reported a sharp decrease in new infections, although questions remain over China's official figures. Elsewhere in East Asia, they were reporting a dramatic increase in cases. In South Korea, 1 church service has infected dozens, and 1 person has died. The mayor of the country's 4th largest city has ordered everyone to stay indoors. Thousands of US forces at a nearby base have also been banned from leaving. The passengers aboard the Diamond Princess have felt the real impact of this epidemic. But while their nightmare journey nears its end, this virus continues to take its toll. Laura Bicker, BBC News, Yokohama.
Let's take a look now at some of the day's other news making global news around the world. Police in the southern African country of Lesotho say the Prime Minister, Thomas Tabene, has been charged with the murder of his estranged wife, Lipulelo, who was shot dead in 2017. Mr. Tabene's current wife, Maisaya Tabene, has already been charged with murder, an accusation she denies. Donald Trump's longtime friend and advisor, Roger Stone, is due to be sentenced in a Washington court later. He was found guilty last November of obstructing an investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election. In India, at least 20 people have been killed after a container slipped off a truck and crashed into a bus. Officials in the southern state of Tamil Nadu say around 48 people were on board the vehicle. Several survivors are in a critical condition. turn to our main story. German politicians have strongly condemned a deadly far-right attack in the town of Hanau. 9 people were killed, all of them from an immigrant background. Some were believed to be of Kurdish origin. Among those condemning the attack in Germany is the leader of the governing CDU party Annegret Kramp-Karrenbauer, who is also the German defence minister. This is what she told me a short time ago. This has just been an absolutely appalling night, hasn't it?
Yeah.
What's your reaction to that news?
Das ist ein schrecklicher Tag heute für Hanau.
It's an horrific day for Hanau and an horrific day for Germany. Our thoughts are with the victims and those who were killed and the families of those who are injured. It's a day where it's clear what poison we have in our society. It's a day where it's clear that far-right extremism, radicalist thoughts, xenophobia and racism kill, at the end of the day, people, and for that reason, this is the political fight that we need to lead.
Der politische Kampf sein, den wir zu führen haben.
There has been much criticism, hasn't there, from certain quarters about the way in which the far-right AfD party in Germany has been allowed to legitimise itself and hasn't been contained in the way that perhaps it should have been. What's your reaction to that criticism?
Das ist eine Kritik, die wir sehr ernst nehmen müssen, denn es ist in der
It's a criticism we have to take very seriously, as it's currently the situation that in the AfD, far-right views are accepted, those that I myself would consider as Nazi views.
Partei, die von Umvolkung spricht.
It's a party that uses Nazi ideologies and is racist, and you have to push strongly against it. As leader of the CDU, I have been clear that there should and there will be no collaboration with the AfD. It's a red line that has to stand, as this school of thought leads to people feeling encouraged to attack, injure and kill other people.
Am Ende des Tages Menschen sich ermutigt fühlen, andere Menschen anzugreifen, zu verletzen und zu töten.
What are you doing now to make the Muslim population in Germany feel safer?
Die Bevölkerung in Deutschland ist sicher. Wir haben
The citizens in Germany are safe. We have a fair and protected democracy. We will never be able to prevent all crimes, but a few days ago we found a far-right terrorist cell and we prevented a large attack on mosques. The security authorities are working as well as they possibly can. A few days ago we brought forward a new law in Parliament that will mean a harsher punishment for hate speech on the internet. And in this way we are trying to prevent further crimes. But the most important thing is that we need to have a society where no one thinks that they are better than someone else because they have another skin colour or religion or because their parents were born here in Germany.
Germany has some pretty strict gun laws at the moment, but clearly something went wrong here, didn't it? Is it a case now that gun laws in Germany need to be looked at more closely, do you think?
Wir haben eines der schärfsten Waffengesetze.
We have among the strongest gun laws in the world, and as far as I know, the perpetrator had a licence to have a firearm. We will now, of course, look at exactly how he got the weapon, and do we need to put in any new restrictions? But I warn against discussing what laws we need to strengthen after every mass shooting or terror attack. It's a question of whether we enforce those laws well enough, and above all, it's a question of what is in someone's head when they reach for that weapon.
That's the CDU party leader Annegret Kramp-Karrenbauer talking to me. Well, it's a dark day for Germany indeed, but an especially dark day for the Turkish diaspora in the nation, a number of whom were killed in the terror attack. The Central Council of Muslims in Germany denounced the far-right attack as an attack on democracy. Abdesamed El-Yazidi is the General Secretary of the Central Council of Muslims in Germany and joins me now from Hanau. Thank you so much for joining us here on Global. A dark day. Oh, we seem to have lost... No, we have him back. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you. Yeah.
It's a dark day for Hanau and for Germany. Do you feel now, after the attack in the centre of Hanau, those 2 Middle Eastern cafes, do you feel now that the Muslim minority in Germany is less safe than it's ever been before?
Yes, I can agree with what you said. They are less safe than every time before. And in the past, we always said that the Muslim beauty in Germany that the Muslim population does not feel safe, because we had a lot of attacks of mosques, of women wearing hijab and things like this since months, since years. But nothing happened. We spoke to the government, we spoke to the security leaders in our country, and they did not what they have to do to save the population. Now we see in Hanau what happens. It is not just a dark day for all Muslims in Germany, it's a dark day for Germany, it's a dark day for our democracy, like you said before.
Okay, Abdasamad El Yazidi, the General Secretary of the Central Council of Muslims in Germany. I'm so sorry to leave it there. It is, as you can probably hear, if you're watching, a terrible line. So apologies for the quality of that, but at least we got some understanding of what Mr. El Yazidi was trying to tell us. Coming up on Global in a few minutes' time, all clear. After being diagnosed with stage 3 bowel cancer, we'll hear from British actress and Mamma Mia star Dame Julie Walters about her road to recovery.
Follow the food, in association with Corteva Agriscience.
I'm here today in a greenhouse right outside of Boston in Massachusetts in the United States. This is something that came out of your lab?
Yeah, it's a super slippery coating. There is something called the no-slip boundary condition, which causes liquids to stick to solids. And what we have done is fundamentally change that to eliminate friction. You can see that
oh, that's amazing.
Because of the slippery coating, all the product comes off the surface. So as a result of which you can dispense every last bit of the product.
If we assume this is pesticide, everything here on the side is going into the trash.
Exactly.
That's wasteful.
Exactly.
If I just look at this and I look at this as a consumer, it makes me feel really good to think of all of this not getting wasted.
Follow the food, in association with Corteva Agriscience.
A man has been stabbed multiple times at a mosque in London. Another man has been arrested at the scene on suspicion of attempted murder. Police arrived at the Regent's Park Mosque in London during afternoon prayers to find the victim with multiple stab wounds. They confirmed the 70-year-old victim is now not in danger. In a tweet, the UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson said, "I'm deeply saddened to hear of the attack at the London Central Mosque. It's so awful that this should happen, especially in a place of worship. My thoughts are with the victim and all those affected." With me now is our correspondent, Richard Galpin. Richard, what more do we know about this attack?
Well, we sort of know the sequence of events for sure, because there's been a statement from the British police here. It took place, or the police were called at around about 3 o'clock our time, and police officers obviously went quickly to the Regent's Park Mosque. Paramedics were also on the scene quickly as well. And they saw a man who'd clearly been stabbed. We think he'd been stabbed in the neck. Eyewitnesses saying there was a lot of blood. This man, according to some reports, the person I've been speaking to, was saying he was the muezzin, the person who actually calls people to prayer. He is the person who was attacked. He's quite elderly. He's in his 70s. He was treated on the scene by the paramedics, but then taken to hospital. And we understand, certainly from statements we've heard from the police, that his life apparently is not in danger. Now, also, there's been video of the arrest of the man. This is a white man wearing a red hooded top, wearing jeans. He was pinned down by the police and has been arrested on suspicion of attempted murder. What we are also hearing, we're not absolutely certain of this, but that the man who carried out the attack was known to people inside the mosque, that he had apparently, over the last few months, the last 6 months or so, had been attending prayers at the mosque. Because, of course, that's the other point to say, that this attack happened around the time of afternoon prayers.
OK, Richard Galpin, thank you very much indeed for that update. Democratic candidates vying to take on President Trump in 2020 have gone head-to-head in their punchiest debate yet. It was the first time Michael Bloomberg joined the debate stage. He was criticised for his record as New York mayor and for using his vast personal wealth to win support. From Las Vegas, here's Sophie Long.
The Democratic presidential debate, live from Las Vegas, Nevada.
And there's a new person on the stage tonight, Mayor Michael Bloomberg.
Enter the new contender. The pre-debate exchanges promised an explosive evening, and that is what they delivered.
To talk about who we're running against, a billionaire who calls women fat broads and horse-faced lesbians. And no, I'm not talking about Donald Trump, I'm talking about Mayor Bloomberg.
This was his response to all the opening accusations.
I think we have two questions to face tonight. One is, who can beat Donald Trump? And number two, who can do the job if they get into the White House? And I would argue that I am the candidate that can do exactly both of those things.
Unsurprisingly, no one on stage agreed.
He didn't get a whole lot done. He had stop and frisk, throwing close to 5 million young black men up against the wall.
His defense against accusations of sexism was stumbling.
About 2 weeks ago, we were awarded we were voted the the best place to work, second best place in America. If that doesn't say something about our employees and how happy they are, I don't know what does.
I hope you heard what his defense was. I've been nice to some women. That just doesn't cut it.
Questions about sexism led to questions about transparency.
So, Mr. Mayor, are you willing to release all of those women from those non-disclosure agreements so we can hear their side of the story?
We have a very few non-disclosure agreements.
How many is that?
Let me finish.
How many is that?
None of them accuse me of doing anything other than maybe they didn't like the joke I told. And let me put.
He did land a few blows of his own and a cheer when he reminded the audience that Bernie Sanders, the self-declared democratic socialist, was also a millionaire that owned 3 houses. Michael Bloomberg was given a pretty rough ride by his fellow candidates, but his name is not on the ballot here in Nevada on Saturday. The first time his name will appear on paper is on Super Tuesday in 2 weeks' time, and there's a lot of television ads that can run and a lot of money that can be spent between now and then. Sophie Long, BBC News, Las Vegas.
The British actress Dame Julie Walters has revealed she was diagnosed with stage 3 bowel cancer. The star of Mamma Mia, Billy Elliot, and Educating Rita told the BBC's Victoria Derbyshire that getting the disease was a shock, but having had chemotherapy, she's now been given the all clear.
How have you been?
Well, I'm very well now, but obviously 18 months ago wasn't so good. When I was diagnosed with bowel cancer, stage 3, 2 primary tumours in my large intestine. A year before that, I had been to the GP because I had indigestion, terrible indigestion, and a slight bit of, really slight, and I saw my own GP. So she sent me to see a gastric surgeon, and he said, we found an abnormality. And I thought, yeah. And he said, in your intestine. I said, right, what is it? He said, well, I'm worried it's cancer.
Your immediate reaction was?
Shock. First of all, shock. And I thought, right, and then you hold on to the positive, which was, he said, we can fix this. I went into hospital and had 30 centimetres, had a foot taken out of my colon. But the brilliant thing, it was in 2 of my lymph nodes as well. And there were 2 of the tumours. They were primary, obviously, they weren't secondaries.
Did you have chemotherapy?
Yeah, I'll never forget taking the first lot.
And these were tablets, weren't they?
Were tablets.
Rather than an infusion?
Yeah. And I took the tablets and my hand was shaking. I felt like I was killing myself that night when I took it, but that was fine. I didn't lose my hair either.
Perhaps your perspective when it comes to acting has changed.
Oh my God, my perspective towards acting has completely changed. There was a huge relief. It's really strange in that, oh God, I can get off this merry-go-round. It felt like I was stepping off something and it was wonderful. Because I was due to do a big series, 2 big series, one that year, one the year afterwards, and a film. Well, there were 2 films, and I just didn't have to do any of it.
So could The Secret Garden be your last film?
It's possible, yeah. I'm not saying I'll never act again, but it's made me feel I'd have to do it at the moment. I don't think I can go back to, certainly not 6 days a week, 5 days a week, 5 in the morning till 7 o'clock at night, with a big part, with having to learn life and the stress of it.
And how are you now?
I'm really well. As far as I know, touching wood, I've just had a scan on Monday, and I know that that's clear.
How do you reflect on turning 70?
Yeah, it's a time for reflection. It certainly is. I don't quite know exactly what's going to come out of all of these reflections. Yeah. But I feel I'm 70, I've got here. Yeah. Great.
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. My stomach's rumbling. She's functioning really, really well.
Dame Julie Walters there talking to Victoria Derbyshire. Don't forget you can get in touch with me and some of the team on Twitter. I'm at BBC Marianne. Thanks for watching. Focus on Africa coming up in a few minutes' time. Stay with us.